In the previous video, you were introduced to 1,4 addition to alpha-beta unsaturated carbonyl compounds, and in this video we're going to do a little bit of practice. So what I have here is 3 reactions, and all of them have an alpha-beta unsaturated carbonyl compound of some sort. And I have given you reagents there. So at this point I would like you to pause the video and look at the reagents, go back and look at the last video if you have to. Where will these reagents add? Where will each of these set of reagents add, and what is the final product that will form from them? And then you can turn the video back on and see how you did. Okay, so you know that the Grignard reagent adds to the carbonyl like it normally would and ignores the alpha-beta unsaturated portion of the molecule, and so the double bond stays the same, nothing changes there, and then the original carbonyl becomes the alkyl, or sorry, becomes the alcohol, and then we have the 2-carbon chain that we have added from the Grignard there. Second one, we know that amines always add to the beta carbon and never add to the carbonyl if there's an alpha-beta unsaturation there. If there's a double bond there, then they always add to the beta. If there's no double bond, then they always add to the carbonyl carbon, forming the imine. So nothing happens to the carbonyl, it stays there, and attached to the beta carbon we have then the nitrogen with the ethyl group attached, and we lose one of the hydrogens, so we end up having a neutral amine here. And so we have added that nucleophile to the beta carbon. And in the last one we know that cuprates also add to the beta carbon, and this is going to add an ethyl group to the beta carbon. So again, nothing has changed in the carbonyl, but we have broken the bond between the pi bond between the alpha and beta carbon, and we have added this 2-carbon chain onto the beta. And remember that we started out with 1 hydrogen here on the alpha carbon and 1 hydrogen on the beta carbon, and we still have the original hydrogen on each of them, and we have added the hydrogen, the second hydrogen on there by adding H3O and protonating in that position. Okay, so the goal always is to use these new reactions that you're learning as tools to make other compounds. And so let's look at a couple examples of compounds that we could make and think about how we could have made these by the new chemistry that we've learned. So I'll go through the first one here. There's alpha carbon and a beta carbon here. And then on the beta carbon, we have a methyl group that is on here. And so that could have been added by a cuprate to the beta carbon. There used to be a double bond here. And so that's pathway A. Or there could have been a double bond here, and we could have added this propyl group here onto it. So I will work one way, and then you can work the other one. So I'm going to do pathway A, which means that originally I had this aldehyde that had a double bond between the alpha and the beta carbon there, and then the new thing I'm adding here is the methyl group, and if I'm wanting to add something to the beta carbon, then it has to be a cuprate if I'm adding a carbon there. So step number 1, oops, it's only 2 methyl groups, CuLi, and step number 2, H3O. Okay, so that's one way to make it. Now you can pause the video and show a second way to make it forming this bond that I've labeled B. Okay, so we had a alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl compound to begin with. Alpha, beta. So the double bond had to be between these two carbons, and then we're adding this group on here, this 3-carbon chain, and we would have to add that again as a cuprate if we wanted it to add to the beta carbon. And so step number 1, we have the dipropyl cuprate. 2 propyl groups, copper, lithium, and then followed by H3O. And then you can go ahead and work the last one, pause the video, work the last one, and then turn it back on, and we'll see that. Okay, last one, we have an amine that has added to the beta carbon, and it has 1 hydrogen left, and it's got one carbon on it, so it was a primary amine. Again, there used to be a double bond between these 2 carbons. And we simply add the methylamine to that, and that will add to the beta carbon, breaking the pi bond. So we have some practice problems for you. There's one in the textbook, chapter 19, number 22, with the answers in, I think there's four A through D versions of this. And then on the yellow sheet in your packet that is labeled carbonyl synthesis practice, on the bottom, these you can show how you would make those from an alpha beta unsaturated ketone to begin with, and some other reagent. And these are not total synthesis, break everything down into smaller pieces. At the moment, we don't have a good way of making alpha beta unsaturated ketones or alpha beta unsaturated aldehydes. In 3 chapters from now, we're going to learn how to make those. But at this point, we're just working backwards. One step showing the alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl that you would start with, and the nucleophile that would add to give these products. And then a key will be posted in the appropriate module in Canvas.